recording this. Perfect, Joe. Thank you very much for carving time out of your incredibly busy schedule to spend with me. I know you are incredibly excited. I've noticed by the wonderful emojis with you sending over to me with the number 1 sign. Always makes me feel good. I'm wondering if you're saying that that means that the Eagles are going to be in first place in the NFC East next year, or is that for some other purpose?
I thought this was going to go well until you had to pull the Eagles out.
Yes, I appreciate that. I had to give a quick dig since we're recording this. You'd have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Less with the verbal abuse because it's being recorded, so other people get to see it too. Anyhow, I set you up on that, so I'm busting your chops here. But I do appreciate you carving some time out. Listen, we've known each other for a number of years, and I appreciate your suggestion, after the transaction saying, hey, give me some time and let's have a conversation about this. And you and I, we talk every couple of weeks, and we talk about multiples, and we talk about what people think they're getting, versus what they're actually getting. And, really, there's just a ton of misinformation out there. So, in our conversations, I appreciated, the idea of having you and I getting together to do this. And what I'm really hoping to get out of this, and for everybody that's listening, is there's just so much misinformation, right? It's all speculation. It's information that's picked up off of a chat group. It's information that's picked up off of a text thread. It's I heard from so on and so forth, who sold, who did this, who did that through my cousin. The reality is you're Joe Strittmatter. You're a highly respected, HVAC owner, contractor, in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. You've been kicking ass for a number of years. You did a transaction. It was incredibly successful. You've had a successful business from before, and within the Service Nation Alliance and Service Roundtable in general, there's a reason why they keep calling on you to step up and have conversations with people. So I thought this would be a really good idea for us to really cut to the chase on some of the misinformation that's out there and really doing it through your story. You had Strittmatters. Tell us just to get started. Give me a little history, a little background of Strittmatters.
Dad got in the business in 1980, asked me if I was going to take it over. I told him no, I'm going to go play ball. Got hurt, didn't play ball. Bounced around, came back to him, said, hey, I'm ready to do this. He said, yeah, right, you had your chance. Blew it off, so go prove it to me. So for the next 5-6 years, I bounced around. Went to work for one of his buddies that owned a supply house, did that for a while, went and started working for other buddies of his that were in the AC business. And finally came back to him and said, hey, I'm ready to, give this thing a go. And kind of like threw me his license and said, good luck. And so reverted back to what I knew, which was new construction, got up to a bunch of crews coming in, 5-6 crews a day, doing new homes. 09 hits, realized, hey, I need to diversify here. Joined a franchise, I'm not going to say their name, realized real quick who was going to make the money on that deal. Sold the territory out within 6 months, lost a bunch of money that I couldn't afford to lose at that point. Then a TM of mine said, he called me one day and asked how, the franchise was going. I said, I actually got out of that. And he said, well, you know where they get it all from anyway, don't you? And I was like, no. And he said, a guy named Ron Smith wrote a book. And they're basically copying Ron Smith's stuff. So got Ron Smith's book. Inside of it, they talked about Service Roundtable. Became a member. Then I ended up becoming a Service Nation Alliance member. I want to say this was 2012, and was doing about $450,000 a year in new construction. Gone way down after 09.
Right.
And joined, and since then started building a service side of HVAC, added plumbing on, was twice named by Eat 5000 as one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the nation. We've won the best of awards around us for like the last 8 years, like 2 or 3 of them. Last year, we ended up growing by 68% year over year. And decided it was time to take some chips off the table, and here we are.
Right. And I appreciate that. And it's not like all of a sudden you woke up one day and said, hey, it's time to find a partner. I mean, the rumor mills, the winds. I mean, we had been talking for gosh knows how long, on where your business was at. But there was a point where you said, okay, it's time to make a move. What can you pinpoint where that was when you say, hey, you know what? Things are still moving up and to the right. It's time for me to really take a much more serious look at this.
Yeah, I had some mentors of mine who had gone through some acquisitions. Listening to them, they told me there's windows that open and close, and this window's open, and you kind of never know when it's going to close.
Right.
And so we looked at it, and actually, I'd made the mistake most people do. I'd actually contacted you to start representing us, and then I kind of faded away and got into an agreement with another with a PE firm.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up walking away basically day of closing. We both just split, parted friends, and probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because that's when I contacted you again and started getting with SF&P and really learning my EBITDA, learning my numbers, learning the things that I needed to be doing. And I think for the next 2 years, you and I and your team got together and figured out, how to make this thing better. And we ended up getting 4.5 times more money 2 years later than we would have with the first deal.
Interesting that you brought that up. And I appreciate that as well. I think, listen, you're a typical type A, right? You're not going to be told what to do. You're going to do it your way. And I think what I looked at is the history of our relationship was there's a trust that got built up, right? Over time, yeah. Right? Okay, Brian, I'm not ready to go, but start showing me where things are at. And I think that a lot of sellers think that, when they contact us or, whoever they're talking to about getting a deal done, that deal happens, boom, overnight. The reality is it doesn't, right? It takes time. But if you have the foresight like you did to be able to see far enough ahead to where you want to get things done, my gosh, you start getting those numbers. Listen, I'm talking about us. You start getting those numbers over to us. It makes it, it's a good situation for us to be able to take a look at where you are, where we're forecasting things out to be, take a look at where your numbers have been in the past and where you're going, and can really start to put some good timing together on this. I think, and we laugh about this all the time. I think you made a comment to me last year about shaving my head. I said, well, I'm tired of ripping my hair out over these conversations. Let's just cut to the chase and cut it all off for the next 2 years while we're all through this run. But man, so many owners just don't get how it works. And, you had actually moved forward and stubbed your toe and realized, wow, maybe the buyer doesn't necessarily have my best interests in mind now. They do after the transaction, but leading up until the time you get paid, listen, the less they pay you, right, which you just found that out, the less they were going to pay you is that much more that you were going to be able to make, in the big picture. So what I keep finding time and time again, listen, we went through this too. It's really pounding into an owner what EBITDA is, right? Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, and obviously in add backs. That number sets the tone. If you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter what multiple they're giving you. How many times during the process, how many times did you call me and say, oh, I heard so-and-so got a 13. Oh, I heard so-and-so got a 14. Where's this at? Where's that at? And every time I said, great, well, who's representing him? And you're like, well, no, I heard they're doing this one-off transaction. Well, you and I both know now that you've gone through this, right? Number one, you don't know what you don't know. So I had a conversation the other day. A guy said, I want you to draw a circle, right? 3% of things 7% of things you don't know, and the other 90% you had no idea was even there. I think the big problem is there's a lot of owners, Joe, like you, sharp, driven, type A, adversity fires them up and fuels them to go ahead and move forward. But if you don't know, where do you think this is going to wind up? Look, listen, we kicked ass on your transaction. We kicked ass because you got a phenomenal business. I like to think that we're pretty good at what we do too. We're able to bring a number of people into play to negotiate, to make some good things happen for you. But you hit the nail on the head. If you were to have done this several years ago, right, that number would have been 60, 70% less than what you wind up getting at closing. You know, could you imagine how you would feel right now, knowing what's still going on in the market, if you got paid that much less a couple of years ago? Where would you, you know, what I'm saying is, where would your drive be?
I would be pissed off.
Right. Right.
Honestly. I mean, I would have been so disgruntled. I would have been counting the days till I could start my next one.
Right. And by the way, you know, do you know how many people I talked to? I had 3 of them last week that did some one-off transaction that were half, you know, 40% of what we felt maybe their value was. You know, you got it, right? It took us a little time of working back and forth. But once you said, hey, I know, right? I think the breaking point, well, I didn't say breaking point, but the point that totally made sense was probably myself, you and your wife on a call. And she said, Joe, you do what you do. Right? Like, you know what you know, and Brian and his team know what they know. How about you handle what you know and let them handle, you know, what they know? And that's kind of where things got a lot more interesting at that point in time, when you trusted us to be able to go ahead and represent you the way we needed to. It took a little bit of time, but ultimately, you know, it came out pretty darn good.
If I ever hear trust the process again.
Well, you know what, but it's like that in anything, right? Service Roundtable says the same thing. Trust the process. It's a process. You don't go from 1 million to 3 million, 5 million, 10 million overnight. It's a process. You get to a certain place, right? You got to bring this next team member in and this next team member. Listen, it's the same thing about getting in shape, playing better golf, anything. Typically, these things don't happen. You know, I had a bus ball son. We'll be playing this summer, by the way. You'll see. But it's like anything, right? If you don't, well, shame on you, because guess when you learn about the process if you don't trust it? When it's done and you've made the mistake. And in the situation of selling your business, you don't get a chance to make a mistake. You get one opportunity to go ahead and do this. If you make that mistake, you're going to be crying about it for a long time. Right. So obviously we're very happy that you trusted in us, you and your wife, Tanya, and she is as well, because obviously the outcome was a pretty darn good one. Let's talk a minute. Let's pivot here for a second. You know, let's talk about the process, right? You had to get a ton of information into us, which sucked. Let's just be honest. That wasn't fun. But you also had your stuff together. You know, from that point on, right, in meeting with these potential partners and narrowing it down and figure out what direction you wanted to go. Tell me what was going on with you and what went through your mind.
So, like I said, I walked away a couple of years ago from a deal, and doing due diligence through them was an absolute whipping, because I didn't know what all I needed to gather and what information they'd be looking for and whatnot. So going in with you guys, you pretty much asked for all that same stuff, but I wasn't necessarily under a clock. Right. So I could take my time and gather all this. I mean, when you ask me for 50 different things that can, you know, be done 40 different ways, then, you know, it's a lot of work. It's you know, it's very tedious, very time consuming. And so going through it this time, it was much easier because we could front load the work. And then once we start talking to a potential partner or something of that nature, it's already done. And now each month we're just doing a bring to date on the stuff that even had to be touched. So, you know, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And I was anxious during that period of time because
just a little bit.
Because of before, you know, I was used to, all right, I gotta get this in, I gotta get this in, I gotta get this in. And, okay, where's the feedback? What am I hearing? And there wasn't that. So, you know, I just felt like I was stockpiling a bunch of information that wasn't necessarily going anywhere. Well, then once I meet with Adam and everybody else behind the scenes, then it's like, oh, this is what y'all been doing with all this. Mm-hmm. And he and Darcy would you know, call and say, okay, they're clarifying this, clarifying that. And that way I'm not getting phone calls all the time about this and that. I could continue to run the business the way I needed to. The other thing is I knew what our magic number was. And so by doing this, I knew to date, real time, where I needed to be. And so now I had a goal to go for because I knew where my number was and I knew how close I was to it. We ended up going well over my number that we wanted, but the process helped me to have an end game or a target and know exactly where I was going to end up.
Yep. Well, and that's part of being, proactive instead of reactive, right? We had a time frame in front of us. We weren't rushed to get something done yesterday. And listen, we love to have clients in that scenario where, okay, great, get us everything, right? Let us start getting through it. And then as you close out each month, keep getting over to us. It allows us to track the trend, right? Also, it allows us to find any mistakes. We also have the runway to work any of those problems out too. And again, you handled it great. And listen, we were on calls a bunch. No big deal. You know how this works. You got my cell number. You were able to call me, and have any conversations you needed to have. Where it got neat, you're in such a great market there. And if I'm not mistaken, you had a whole lot of interest, in what you were doing. You started having, these conversations. Ultimately, you decided and chose upon a partner. I guess what I want to ask is, listen, going into that last week, right? Deal's going to close on such and such date. The money's going to hit the account. Tell me what's going on with you.
Actually, it's very interesting.
Look at that smile, by the way. Go ahead.
We were in Louisville, Kentucky.
That's right. That's right.
At the Service Nation Expo.
It was happening the next week. Sure.
And I had to be so hush hush because nobody knew what was going on, and I didn't want to jinx it. I remember talking to, I think, Ryan Snow and Chris Hunter, and I'm like, oh man, kind of, saying something, but not really wanting to let it too far out of the bag. That point, it was that Wednesday, it was a little hectic because I'm in Louisville and I'm getting all these contracts sent to me. So I spent half my day Wednesday in a freaking FedEx around the corner, printing and signing documents and scanning them back and sending them. Then I flew back Thursday. I left early and flew back Thursday, and was kind of waiting around. It's like, okay, no big deal. We're closing tomorrow. I'm back here because, something's going to go wrong. They're going to need something. And Friday rolls around. I'm just sitting around and I'm like, what? Like I'm supposed to be getting how much money today and nothing's happening? This is like the most uneventful day of my life.
Ever.
Other than I'm just sitting here every 5 minutes checking my bank account to see if the money's hit. And then all of a sudden, boom, there it is. And it's like, that's all? Everything.
Wait. Not that's all. That's it, right? So I gave a presentation once, and I think you'll appreciate what I'm going to say. It's like scoring the game-winning touchdown in a Super Bowl, with no fans, no television, and no team. Just like you and a quarterback throwing the ball over your shoulder, right? And that won this huge game, and that's it. It's just you and your immediate circle really celebrating the win, which is, it's a blessing and a curse, right? You're busting at the seams. You want to go hug the world and celebrate and do all this stuff. And, there's a tight knit group to share it with, but listen, when you're on top of the food chain, the way that you are, that's the reality of it. For the last number of years, let's be honest, let's be clear. There's nobody really besides your tight group that's been slapping you on the back, telling you what a great job you're doing. And owners, this is a problem with owners that I talk to all the time. There's nobody congratulating, telling them how great they're doing. They're on the top of the food chain. They're writing the checks out to everybody else. Right? Your staff doesn't really get an idea of your profit and loss and your EBITDA and where your multiples are at and what's going on. So yeah, it is a little anticlimactic, we celebrate it. I'm excited about it, but
oh yeah, you sent me some Jordans.
We got to go out and break them. We got to go out and break them in now on the golf course.
Yeah. So yeah, I went out to eat that night. It was just like,
right.
We got all this cash now. What do we want to do? And there's nothing we wanted to do. So it's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Right. And which brings me to the point. So the transaction, completes, you get paid. Now we're on to the next step. And I think this is kind of, I hope everybody listening really pays attention here. The misinformation that goes around about what the next step looks like, it runs rampant, right? It's a lot of fear mongering. The reality is there's a couple different type of buyers, right? There's buyers that want to buy you out, give you a hug, and you're out in 90 days sailing off into the sunset. And then there's, on the other end of the spectrum, there's buyers that become your partner. And there are a number of different options for partnerships, so on and so forth. But, you chose the latter route, right? You want to partner with somebody for growth. And again, what I hear when I talk to people who are thinking about, owners, are thinking about making a move. Oh my God, they're going to ruin my culture. I'm now working for somebody. I'm now going to lose control of my business. My people are all going to walk out the door. Can you shed some light? I mean, you're post-transaction, you're 6 months post-transaction. To me, you look the same. I can't even believe you're on. Actually, you have changed. I expected to see you with a hat on, and you don't have a hat on. So to that, that's the only change I know, right? So you tell me what's going on post-transaction. By the way, as much as you can say,
Yeah. No, my deal, well, there's two sides to my deal. And I chose one of the sides. So first of all, my group, granted, we would have just left it alone. I became regional president for them. I'm handling Texas. I'm overseeing whatever we purchase in Texas. My day-to-day did not change at all. Let's talk about the first month afterwards.
Sure.
So my day-to-day did not change at all. They did not buy me to overhaul me. They did not buy me to change me. They did not buy me for us to come in and get rid of us and put somebody else in place. You've got to understand how private equity works. They don't want you to lose money, but they're not necessarily looking to come in and make you grow by 400% either. Most of these guys that I spoke to, if you grow by 10% year over year, they're happy. You just got to understand how multiples work, how EBITDA works, and multiplied EBITDA by over 10, 12 different companies, how the multiples changed and how they're making money. They're not looking to come in and rewrite everything that you ever did. Most of the time, you won't even hear from them. Right. I actually got a pay raise on my salary to stay on board. And they just want to make sure that you just, do what you did last year, plus a little bit better. On their end, they have so many synergies. Maybe you're getting uniforms for your employees. Well, instead of using company A, you use company B, and they get a 40% reduction in price. They walk into whichever equipment manufacturer that you're dealing with, and now you're a national platform, so now you get a 20% discount or rebate. There's so many things they can do.
Economies of scale, right?
Right. Your CRMs that you're using for dispatching, same thing. They have so many of them. Your insurance, your vehicle purchasing, they can make you more profitable to make the money that they need you to make to grow, to show growth of EBITDA. And then let's be honest, 10% growth each year, you can do that with just changing your pricing.
Right.
And so you don't even necessarily have to work harder. They're going to make you more money. And just by making sure your pricing is correct, you can grow. You can actually do less jobs with these guys and they'll be happy.
I want to hold that for just one moment. You brought up a really good point there. They really didn't ask you to do much different than anything differently than you've already been doing. They didn't say, hey, Joe, I need you up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Here's all these new reports. You need to go get an Eagles tattoo. None of that crazy stuff, right?
I did at least wear green for you.
I saw why St. Patrick's Day is why.
That's St. Patrick's Day.
I know, good one. But again, the misinformation is they come in, they're running my business, they want to throw me out. They're not here to run your business. They're here to partner with you. They want to
Right.
see your numbers to see where they can help you out, right? Now, if I'm not mistaken, well, I don't know, you tell me, in a lot of the scenarios that I see, you know, they have a plan in place. They have a lot of conversations with you. Joe, show us some stuff you're doing phenomenally well, which they're going to pick this up, through diligence anyhow. And by the way, here's a couple of areas of things you may want to take a look at that the portfolio does really well. You may want to implement at your place, but they don't beat you over the head to do any of this, right? You're not on hundreds of calls per month, with them with demands and what have you. It's business as usual. You vacation when you want to vacation, right? You come and go as you please.
Actually, I can now vacation when I want to vacation.
Right. Right. Yeah, much different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I appreciate, the candid honesty in what it looked like post-transaction. I had these conversations too with everybody. And the reality is, SFP advisors, we want to get deals done, but we want to get them done on an owner's time frame, not on our time frame. And, with you, it worked out that way. And, I would say with most of our clients, it does. Just there's always that apprehension. I'm a big business guy, right? I'm a type A. I've got a big ego. I've done very well. I don't like to be told what to do. I have made my decisions that got me here. I'm not going to be answering to anybody. You're not answering to anybody. You've got a partnership, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm glad that we covered that, 3 different ways, because it just keeps coming up. Go ahead. You got something you want to add in?
Well, I was going to say, due diligence is kind of your interview. You're laying everything out. They're checking you out, seeing if you're the right fit for them. They're probably looking for synergies and this and that, but you have the same ability. I think y'all put 20 or 22 people in front of me. And I had the ability to sit down either on a Zoom meeting like this or across the table from these people. And we got to interview them as much as they interviewed us.
Exactly.
And there's an option out there for everyone. Like you said, if you want, you're done, you want to retire and you want to be doing whatever it is you want to go do, there's that option.
Right.
You want to start from the ground up and build something. Well, you become a platform, and you just got to know what that means to be somebody's platform. I chose not to because I didn't want to do all that flying around and glad handing. But I chose to go with someone who was still early enough on that I could have some say and input on how things were going to go. They're not set in their ways. So you get to interview them just as much as they interview you.
Yeah. And again, we had talked about this early on, right? There's a chemistry fit. You're going to want to have these conversations with these potential partners. You need to see what's available and what's going on out there for you, which if you're not getting, and the other part of this, and I'm just going to throw this in here, again, the hair's ripped out. So now the frustration just comes out, through here. I don't pull at my hair, which is exciting. That chemistry fit, it's figuring out who's going to work best for you. It's the competitive bids so that Joe Strittmatter knows, okay, here's where all these offers came in. Here's kind of where my value is, right? It's no longer speculation. One of the things that comes up, when from my standpoint, we do a lot of these, we take a look at some preliminary numbers and give folks an idea of where things are at. We have to be conservative with what we talk about, right? Because we won't know until we go to market, and bring the interest in kind of where everybody's going to end up. Plus, we're going to do a bigger tightening up on the numbers too. But my gosh, once you've gone through the process and you've trusted to see where things are at, right? It ended up better than where you thought it was going to be, right? Higher than where you wanted it to be, but you had to trust the process. And it was a process. We are thrilled that you gave us the opportunity to be able to show a bunch of people to you. There's too many folks out there, and there's plenty of them that are going to listen to this, Joe, that say, well, I'm talking to one company and they seem great. How are you not having conversations with most owners? By the way, don't have the bandwidth, right? You're running a business. Would you have had the bandwidth to put all this together?
No.
Right. Right. That's why we're brought in to manage and work you through the process and then hold your hand, through diligence, to make sure that it gets to a successful closing, because that's what you wanted to have happen. Right. And even by the way, even during diligence, there's hiccups all over the place, right?
Sure.
There's 4-alarm fires pretty much nonstop. They happen, it gets rectified, cleared up, and we move on with it.
But it's not every day.
What's that?
But it's not every day.
It's one time. It's a one-time experience that lasts for a number of months.
I'm saying the 4-alarm fire.
Oh, no.
One or two may pop up here or there, but
They happen.
we know a guy that literally was getting to work at 2 or 3 in the morning to go try to get the diligence stuff done before his people got there at 8, and then would have to go do his regular job. And
You're crazy.
yeah, it's not. You're going to be able to sleep and rest and do whatever you need to do.
But you understood what we were saying is that you need to focus on your business, and we're going to focus on everything else for you, because all those numbers become magnified during diligence. Let me ask you, you're on the other side of the transaction. You're looking back now. Obviously, it was successful for you, successful for your partner. Was it more about timing? Do you think it's an age thing? You think it's a maturity within the business? If you're telling somebody out there right now about, what advice are you giving around, is there a right or wrong time? Is there a right or wrong age? Or is there a right or wrong size of your business to be able to start to explore this? Because let's be real, when you became our client, we were exploring it to see where things were going to end up. If it wasn't going to end up in the place that worked best for you, it wasn't going to happen, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So, I hear a lot of, well, I'm 30, I'm 35, I'm whatever, what am I going to do? Well, with the way multiples are today, you're going to have to work 10 more years to get up to a certain level to where you think you may get what you're worth.
Right.
The difference today than say earlier, 2000s, things of that nature, is the PE, people coming in and letting you buy back into the company.
The equity role. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had a good buddy of mine that grew up with that I started picking his brain. He's actually has been partnered with private equity for the last 6-7 years, but in the healthcare space,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of learned. And I said, man, it's just not enough money. And he looked at me and goes, first of all, you're insane. Do you know what the top 1% of net worth is in the United States these days? And no, how much? Well, it's $4.5 million. Oh, okay. You know what the top 0.1% is? No. What's about 25 million and up? Okay. So if the top 1% can live the rest of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
you probably can too. Second, I said, well, I don't know about this equity role. I could go out here, I can, buy some real estate and do this, and I can, invest in this and that. And he's like, you're insane again. You will never outpace the private equity guys. That's the reason why the super rich give them their money. Because, an example, had a couple friends that went with another firm. Let's say they bought back $1 million worth of stock.
Okay.
Well, let's say they got paid $5 million and reinvested 20%, $1 million. So they have 4 million cash, or however it was structured, and $1 million back in. The stock market is going to make you between 4 and 6% return on your money year over year. So if you have $4 million in the stock market, this math's going to kill me. What are you going to make?
160 grand
Per year.
That's on the 4%. 6% would be 240.
Okay, let's say it's 240.
Mhm.
Let's say you do that for 4 years. Well, that's $1 million you're gonna make, right?
Yeah, a little over, some
million.
compounding, sure.
Okay. I have one friend that invested that $1 million back in 18 months, got paid 8 times. So he got
Much
8 million. I have another friend that did it for 6, 9 months. He got paid 5 times.
Yep.
But these people were later in the turn. If they had been earlier on in the turn, speculation heard that, you know, one of the guys that was early on in that turn of that company got 25 times the reinvestment.
It all depends on the PE group. It depends what their time horizon is and what their, when they were looking to divest themselves of the investment. But I think the point you made is really a good one. And I wanted to add on to it. When you do your deal, okay, you are no longer personally liable, right? You're all right. That was a big one, right? I know you and your wife, that was a big concern. You had a lot of stuff going on through the business. Now you don't. You got paid, you had a reinvestment piece. So to hash out some simple numbers on what Joe was saying, let's say, for example, you sold your business for $10 million. And by the way, I've done this example a million times over. Okay. You reinvest 2 million. So at closing, you get 8 million, 2 million is reinvested with the private equity partner. The private equity partner is looking to get a return for you and their investors, right? As quickly as they can. Typically, these guys have a 5-year time horizon to get that done. They want to shrink it by 3. I think 36 months, something there is like how they max out, you know, what the return is going to wind up being. You realize, Joe, that when our clients do deals, they're not always at day one of a new fund. They're usually somewhere down the road, meaning the EBITDA is growing. There's, you know, the stock is growing. There's some excitement to it. Like you said, some of these PE groups are selling 12, 14, 16, 18 months after they've done a deal with you. You're automatically getting a return, you know, on that reinvestment piece. Then guess what? You get the opportunity to do it again. So now, and I've had, you know, anybody who knows me has had these conversations, you're now playing the leverage game, right? You are speak differently now than when we first started talking a couple of years ago. Before, you were a hands in the soil guy, right? As an owner, you understand. Now it's a top down game, right? You're viewing it from top down. You're playing the leverage game. Your money is being leveraged. Man, when they do their flip, you're going to get, you know, you can knock the world off again. And most times what you're looking for is really to get what you got in the first bite on the second one. Well, my God, without having to grow your business 80% per year, without having to go work, right? I have these conversations with guys, and part of it is, and you know, I know how you watch the news nonstop. I don't know what's going to happen next year. So if your thought is, hey, okay, multiples are now at this level, and this is going to continue on for 3, 4, 5 years, I'll decide to do it when I can.
It's game over.
Right. I mean, the interest rates change, the game changes. This geopolitical stuff gets more serious. I don't know what change that's going to have to this. Midterms come up at the end of the year. Don't know. There's just so many options to have the carpet pulled out or for things to start moving in the other direction. You know what I mean? It's almost like poker. I hate to say it. There's a lot of outs.
I think you basically have to be in today. This is just my opinion.
Okay.
I think you need to be in the pipeline today. I mean, they raised interest rates, yesterday?
Right.
0.25%, talking about 6 more raises this year, and they're going to be at a higher amount. Well, your 12 is now going to become a 10 multiple.
Right. Maybe not in this moment, but over time, as those, right. Because these deals, listen, private equity comes in when they do a deal, typically, again, averaging half of it's cash, half of it, they're borrowing some money to go ahead and make the deal happen. If it becomes more expensive to borrow the money, you know, like think about buying a house. When mortgage rates goes up, you get a smaller house. Well, when rates go up in this game, you get a smaller multiple, you know?
Right. Well, it's the same thing. If they can afford 10,000 a month, it doesn't matter if it's a $10 million note at 0%, or if it's $1 million note at 8%. It comes out to be $10,000 a month. And so, yeah, as their new notes have to go up in interest, the multiple is going to come down, what they can pay out.
They simply can't afford to pay the same amount that they have from before. And again, you know, listen, we took our time. We had a time horizon, you know, obviously with your transaction. I don't disagree with you. I think, you know, this year going to be interesting. I don't even speculate to what goes on to next year. Right now, I see out 3 to 6 months. You know, we're in the middle of March. I'm pretty confident for stuff that we've got in the pipe moving to go. And for anybody that's sitting on the fence, you know, I give the same disclaimer all the time. If you haven't called me to have a conversation about this, you know, shame on you. But again, it goes back to something we had talked about from earlier, which is EBITDA versus multiple. You know what I mean? I think in the transaction, my feeling is this: you had put a lot of work together and you're incredibly intelligent and driven, right? Like a lot of owners are out there, and you don't want to be told what to do, but you have to be able to trust a professional to be able to get these things done, right? And listen, I say the name Fred Silverstein. Fred's done these deals for 25 plus years now, right? If there's anybody that understands this, it's Fred. I am blessed to be on the same team as he is, right? And now, you know, we have the auditors behind us for the last number of years that have been digging into the books as well, which is actually shortened the diligence time period.
Yes.
It always surprises me that just because you've been successful in your realm, thinks that you're going to be successful when you're sitting across negotiating your deal with private equity. It's two different languages. You know what I mean?
It's apples and oranges completely.
You know, you've gone through it now. So you looked at doing it one time, right? It drove you absolutely nutty. And now you've done it a second time, right? You really finished it, you know, through us. I mean, the differences, right, are night and day.
Yeah, no, you're right. And back to the multiples deal, I can't tell you how many people that after, you know, we did our transaction that called me up and just had questions. On the Service Nation, different AB groups have called me on and wanted me to talk about the process and how it went and things. But I keep getting these messages from people. I got one over the weekend from some guy I don't even know on Facebook talking about, yeah, you know, I got a $3 million a year company and they're offering me a 12X.
Doesn't happen.
Well, he just doesn't realize they're offering him a 6. They just cut his EBITDA in half. Now they're like, oh, that guy's going to offer you 8. Well, we'll give you 12. But they never get down to the EBITDA portion to see what his EBITDA truly was. And so it's all speculation until you have somebody that truly knows what these people are looking for as far as EBITDA. And you figure out what your EBITDA is.
That's the number that starts the process. When we
Correct.
hear, you know, and like you, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, you know, oh, wish we would have used you. Well, I mean, I got paid at this, I got paid, you know, 14X, you know, well, how big was your business? Well, we were doing 6 million in revenue. I'm like, do you really think you got paid 14X on 6 million in revenue? You know, the reality is you're right. They take your EBITDA number because they know you don't know it. So when these guys are having conversations with you, when I say you, I'm generalizing because I hear it and they get an idea that it's more important for you to brag about your multiple to your friends than right, to talk about what your EBITDA number is, right? So they give you this multiple so you can go tell everybody at the country club or, you know, when you go out fishing or, you know, or in your groups, you know, how well you did on the multiple side, but everybody keeps forgetting the most important number moving forward is the EBITDA number. You know, you have to have that solidified up. And we've probably looked at thousands of financial statements. I'd say probably there's been maybe 2 to 3 folks of financials that we've looked at where they gave us a rough idea of what they thought their EBITDA number was. And they were within a couple 100,000 of it. Like there's too much that goes on, you know? So again, you've been, you know, incredible. I always love having conversations with you. I'm so happy you were able to record it. Listen, we held back on the ball busting, which I thought was good. Now that doesn't mean when I don't see you next month.
You did wear the blue for the Cowboys, right?
What's that?
You did wear that blue shirt for the Cowboys?
I use it for professionalism. Yes. So we changed today, right? I became a Cowboys fan. Yeah, baby blue, actually. I'm going to wrap it with this. And look, first off, anything else that you want to add before I ask you the last question?
Again, do your diligence on the company that you're going to partner with. That's the biggest thing. I would say if you're in it for the long haul and are in it to get as much value as you possibly can. If you're not, you know, a $20 million a year company, you're not going to become a platform. But find a company who hasn't turned yet, meaning they still have their initial financial backer. Find a company that's still early on in their turn and that has some sort of differentiation than anybody else. Do they have a special offer of some sort? That's the why I chose the platform that I'm on, is because we have a financing leasing model that nobody else has. But that was a differentiator that was good for us. So find somebody that's early on, that hasn't done their first turn yet, and go. If you know you're comfortable with the number that you got, that you know you're going to get, then you know it opens the door to more things. But if you're that 30-something-year-old that is concerned about, you know, are you too young, you're going to run out of money, just find somebody earlier on in their cycle and jump in with them. And
they're not forcing you out. You're going to be on for a number of turns. My God, in 2 to 3 years, you could switch partners, get paid again. 2 to 3 after that, or 4 after that, it happens again.
Yeah.
In what you were saying, by the way, just want to clarify. That's where we come in, right? Introducing you to the partners, having conversations about that, giving ideas of what looks good with one versus the other one. It is very tough to do this on your own because you didn't have a sound. In the beginning, you didn't have a sounding board to have conversations with to make sure you were seeing it properly, right? So I wanted to make sure we cleared that up. You know, I don't know, any last, you know, and again, I know you were moving into something. Your transaction is done. You're 6 months post-transaction, right? Now I'm looking at a much calmer guy, right, in front of me. Wife is thrilled. I know everybody on your end. It's phenomenal. Scale 1 to 10. 10 being, hey, best thing I ever did. You know, if given the choice, I would do the same thing again. 1 being like, oh, are you crazy? Where are you at in that scale?
I would have to say a 9 or a 10. You know, my company, you know, was named after us. Well, I'm still there. You know, it's funny how money fixes problems. Murphy hasn't been around lately. No, Murphy's Law. It's peaceful, more at ease. You're right. I have calmed down a whole heck of a lot over the last 6 months, because I can. I mean, now I could literally walk away today, not have a care in the world. I chose not to, and actually chose to take on more responsibility. But that's just the type of person that I am.
Well, you're doing it now, Joe, because you want to,
correct?
Not because you have to, right?
Correct.
You didn't spend the last 12, 13 plus years building your business, right? For your blood, sweat, and tears to give it away at a discount.
Correct.
Right? You had pride in what you did. You realized the value of your business. You need a little help to get you where you wanted to go.
Right.
That's the reality, right?
Now I get to do it on their dime and still get paid.
There you go. Well, listen, I appreciate, you know, your time as always. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks here out in Palm Springs. I'm going to be there. I know you're going to be there, and this is going to go out, you know, through the whole Service Roundtable group. So anybody that's seeing this, all my contact information is going to be on the email that this went out with. I'm going to be there for a week. You want to have a conversation face to face, give me a call. Heck, give Joe a call. We'll both be out there. You can talk to Joe too. You guys all know him. So feel free to contact Joe, contact me. And if you're not going to be there, listen, feel free to give me a call, or just the same, or give Joe a call. Either one, we're going to give you the information, because at the end of the day, 1 + 1 is going to equal what it's going to equal, right? You can't BS that. So
yeah, it's not some magical fairy dust. I mean, it is real. It does happen. And, you know, most people can't fathom the things that we're talking about and the kind of money we're talking about, but it is real, and it can happen to anybody.
So I'm going to get you on the record here as we wrap up. Football season is over. Eagles are going to play Dallas twice next year, right? I would say 3 times, but I don't think Dallas is going to make the playoffs.
The Cowboys aren't going to make the playoffs. That's what
That's
we're
gonna
going
be
with,
horrible.
not the Eagles.
So where do you think your record, where do you think Dallas's record is going to fall in next year? And then we'll be able to review back through the tape, which would be exciting.
11-5.
They're only going to, they're going to play 17 games next year. So give me one more. You're going to be 11-6 or 12-5.
12-5.
There you go. We're going to be 9-8. We will probably miss the playoffs. Which now I'm knowing that
As
I'm
usual.
going to. I forgot how much I miss you. All right. Have a great one. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Okay.
All right, bud.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.